Welcome to Salt of the Earth, Northwich People of Action, the podcast celebrating the people, projects and community events that help make our area such a special place. First, we talk to Nic Abbott about why supporting the local community, and Rotary in particular, means so much to him. Nic also gives us an insight into the seniors' lunch, giving isolated older people the chance to enjoy companionship, conversation and a really special day out. We then hear from Saskia Lightburn-Ritchie from My CWA about the incredibly important work they do to support people affected by domestic violence and the ongoing challenge of making sure that support can continue long term. And finally, it's back to Nic, who shares a very personal story from his childhood that helps explain why volunteering and supporting the community means so much to him today. Before we begin, please be aware that this episode includes discussions around domestic violence and difficult personal experiences, which some listeners may find upsetting, so please take care while listening. I'd like to introduce Nic Abbott. He's very centrally involved with lots of projects. Nic is very much a Rotary member through and through. Nic, welcome.
Thank you, Paula. It's nice to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit about how long you have been a member and your experience of your first meeting?
I've been in Rotary for 11 years. When I first went along to a meeting as a guest, I just remember going into the room and feeling a little bit apprehensive, as you would, and being so welcomed. Everybody wanted me to be there. And it was just amazing. There was this joy of just walking into the room and feeling part of a community already. And another thing that really struck me about that first meeting as it progressed was there was a part to it towards the end of the meeting where members could just ask for help, ask for volunteers to state what was going on. And I just sat there in awe. All these hands were going up to help. And I just thought this was just incredible. And I wanted to be part of it.
Do you have any reservations or preconceptions about Rotary before you went to that first meeting?
I didn't know anything about Rotary, really. I had recently moved to Hertford and I wanted to put something back into the community. It was important to me. And so I'd Googled what organisation existed and I just absolutely loved what I found online. This was an organisation that was non-political, non-religious, just there to help, to serve in the community. And I thought, yeah, that's for me. So that's about all I knew about it, really.
Was there a particular reason for you why you were looking to get involved with the community or to do something along the lines of volunteering and community support?
I've always tried to serve the community and serve other people and look out for other people. It goes back into my story and the abuse I suffered from a child. I wanted to undo a lot of the harm I'd seen as a child, and I wanted to make it a kinder world. And that's what I felt for a long time. And so it fits in with that ethos.
Yeah. What kind of things have you been involved with through Rotary?
So much. We are very big in our club with our Christmas activities, which is a big part of our year, and our seniors lunch that we do each year. River Festival was really a Rotary event that started off a few years ago. I've been involved with that. And the Beer Festival, again, is a big and important event that we stage in Northwich. So those are the big events, but there's so many small things that take place, whether it's just a litter pick or a local charity will ask for some help with a supermarket backpack to raise some funds. Petty Pool is another one where we're heavily involved. We take a group of children from a local school to Petty Pool each year and fund that. So there are some areas of Northwich that need that kind of financial support and some schools that really appreciate that financial support, of course. We'll help sponsor a school to do a pantomime trip in Northwich. And we also do front of house support for a couple of local musical theatre groups. Again, musical theatre is something that I find has helped me in my life and it brings a lot of joy and help to people. And the arts, I think, is very underrated. So we do like to support that as well.
It's fair to say the activities are many and varied. How has your Rotary journey been and how have you seen Rotary change and evolve over time?
The club, when I joined it, was very strong, but I think there is a reputation in Rotary, which I wasn't aware of, for it being male, pale and stale. And it's very unfortunate because that's just not the case. There were people of all ages, all races, all colours involved. And we needed to go through a rebirth with the club. And a gentleman called Harry Rose, who's still in the club, suggested that I take on a sort of membership role and look at this problem. And that's when we started having our open evenings, which we do annually in January, to invite potential new members along to just find out more about what Rotary is and this incredible organisation, which it truly is. We've been bringing in younger members and allowing the older gentlemen to step away and retire as they have done over those years. So we still maintain almost the same membership, but the age has dropped drastically and the culture of the club has changed quite a lot and moved away from some of the traditional roles and culture, if you like, in the club to a younger feel and a younger vibe, which has helped come along and see us because it's different from what it was.
If somebody's listening and they're wondering, am I too young or am I too female or am I too something or other? What would you say to anybody who's intrigued but not sure it's for them?
Absolutely would be very welcome. It's open to everyone, regardless of any part of your identity. And if you have those doubts, well, just come along because like my first meeting where I was so welcomed, you will be. It's as simple as that.
Fantastic. All the clubs are quite linked together, but you're quite closely linked with Rotaract. Can you give us a little snippet about Rotaract? Because I suspect that is the one part of Rotary that people probably do know the least about.
Rotaract is for 18 to 30-year-olds, and it has a very different feel to it. It's very relaxed. It's younger people coming together and helping in small ways that they can fit in around what is usually a very, very busy schedule for people in that age bracket. And you have a very transient period in your life where you're perhaps going to university, moving away, finding jobs at different parts of the country or around the world or so on. So club members in Rotaract come and go a little more quickly, fit in small ways. So it's a great club for that and being much more informal, just turning up and just getting involved in however you can help.
But they've always got the opportunity to volunteer at the other Rotary events. So they're not obliged to do anything and they're not committed, but they've still got access to all of those really lovely volunteering opportunities.
Yes, they have. And it's something you just dip in and out of. Simple as that, yeah.
For Rotary members in general, how easy is it to volunteer or to get involved with different things? And how much of an obligation is there to do that?
There's no obligation anymore. Rotary did used to have a policy of a certain level of attendance for you to maintain your membership and an expectation that you would meet and exceed that attendance record and be involved in a very, very big way. People's lives have changed and our situations in our volunteering opportunity, if you like, is much reduced. And so there's no obligation to do that anymore. But there is an expectation that you will be involved and you will actually, to your own level, you will try to help and try to do something. It's not something you just join as a social thing only. You really do need to think, yes, I do want to help in the community. I can only give an hour a week, so that's fine. No one's going to pressure you, but you do need to have a little commitment to help in some way.
Can you give us a little outline of your meetings and perhaps your decision-making structure so people can just get a feel for what is it that's going on and how does it run?
I think the best way to see that really is to come along to different club meetings. Our structure is a little less formal, but we do have a formal structure. We have opening remarks by the president. We have a meal, which is optional actually at each meeting. And we toast to Rotary that we always do. And there are various levels really of how formal that gets. We've tried to keep some of the traditions because I quite like the toast to Rotary, so I kept it in. But each president has some flexibility to how they want to run it really. Your own club in Weaver Valley is very relaxed in comparison. So if people want to get some idea of how that works, or perhaps they like the idea of having a meal each night, then perhaps our club would fit well with them, or perhaps they would like some more online meetings that you tend to do. So you really need to just try them out, see how they fit.
Yeah. We've talked about Rotaract being the young sociable arm. For the other clubs, I think we cover a real range in terms of the style of meetings and attendance. There's something in there that I think would appeal to everybody. So come and visit all of them.
Exactly.
What would you say to somebody, Nick, who is thinking about joining or thinking about visiting, but they're nervous?
There's no reason to be. I understand apprehension at trying something new, of course, but you will be welcomed with open arms. And there's absolutely no pressure either. People can come along as a guest, and if they're still unsure, keep coming as a guest. The other thing is to get involved in the activities, because take our seniors lunch, which happens towards the end of February into March. We get 100 seniors from around Northwich into a hall, some entertainment. We give them a 3-course dinner, and it's just lovely. We have people at those events which tell us it's the only time they get to see certain friends that they've been going for a few years, and some of them were school friends as well. And so it's quite a poignant moment in itself. And often in that club, we say that's one of the best things that we do every year. We have an opportunity for potential members to come along and help volunteer, serving food to our seniors or helping ferry them to the event and back home again. It's just a small way that you can actually see the work and away from the meetings, which might appeal to people more. So come along, get involved with the activities and just try it for yourself and don't be nervous. I have Nic Abbott's 3 steps to happiness. The first is to really be mindful, to be in the present moment and to let go of your worries, whether in the past or in the future. We spend a lot of time, if we're not careful, just thinking about things that might have happened or might happen in the future or have happened that we can't really change. We should spend more time in the present. If you do that first step, then you can not be a bystander. In my second tip for people, get involved when you see something that you can do to help. And you can do that by just joining Rotary. You can not be a bystander. I'll tell you the third one when I've told you the little anecdote. I was driving down from the north of England one Sunday morning. It was a very cold, wet morning. And I was being mindful in my driving because it's safe as well. Concentrate on what you're doing, looking around and being mindful. And I happened to notice there was a white van parked up a driveway into a small holding, probably 100 yards back from the road, with a gentleman standing in the rain with jump leads in his hands in front of his van with his jump leads trailing under the bonnet. And so I wasn't a bystander. I could see he wanted someone to stop and jumpstart his van. So I braked hard and Tracy and my son were in the car and like, oh, what are we doing? Nothing else on the road. And I turned around and said, oh, we're just going to go and help somebody. I drove up to him and popped the bonnet. Didn't even get out. He put the jump leads on, heard his van roar into life, and then the bonnet dropped back down again. And it would have amused me greatly to just had no verbal communication at all, to just waved and started to back up and to go. But he signaled for me to stop. And he went to his van and he came back with an open bag of jelly babies. Not a big sweet eating family at all. But even so, I put the window down and he offered these jelly babies to me. I took them from him as though he was doing me the bigger favour. Thank you. That's just what we need for the journey. And how could I give him his better day other than to graciously accept his thanks? And that's my third one. Graciously accept thanks from people. We're terrible at that. Really. Do you imagine, people say, oh, you don't need to do that. Oh, it was nothing. Yeah. And that diminishes his value. So, just be mindful. Step in and help where you can. And graciously accept thanks. It's all that little story for you.
Brilliant, Nic. Very much appreciate your input. Thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome, and thank you for being a great host. It was lovely to chat to you.
My next guest is Saskia Lightburn-Ritchie, the Chief Executive of My CWA and co-founder and CEO of Domestic Abuse Experts. Saskia, welcome to the podcast.
I'm really pleased to be here, Paula. Thank you. I work in the field of domestic abuse and have done that for almost 35 years now in a whole range of different organisations. For the last 15 years, I've been delivering services across Cheshire to people affected by domestic abuse. And I think it's probably a lot more prevalent than people realise, and the range of services that we offer are probably a lot broader than people realise as well.
Tell me a little bit about who you support and what kind of support you offer.
We did an exercise last year across our team and volunteers, basically saying, who do we work for? Who do we help? And the answer is pretty much anybody affected by domestic abuse. Yeah. So it's fairly broad. We work with people who are currently in abusive relationships. We have safe accommodation for people that are fleeing domestic abuse and need somewhere for themselves and their children if they have any. We work with children and young people, as well as adult survivors who've already left their relationship. And the bit I think that's probably most unusual about us is that we also work with the perpetrators who cause the harm. We have staff based in all the custody suites across Cheshire, and we start working with people the moment they're arrested to try to interrupt and reduce the impact of their behaviours on the people that they are supposed to care about.
Yeah, by getting involved at that point, you're looking to prevent this from happening again. So you're really making deep impact there.
That's the ideal, yes. We have spent decades, 50, 70 years in this country dealing with people who are in crisis and trying to help to get them onto a safe track. And I think the more we can do around prevention, the better that will be. And we do prevention work in schools as well. We do this work with perpetrators at the earliest point, really, that they're identified, which is the first time that they've been arrested. in the hopes that we can really reduce that damage that can take generations to recover from.
Yes. What kind of support do you provide to somebody who is going through a domestic abuse situation at that point in time?
The most important thing about our work is to make adult and child victims safer. So we do what we can and we work with people so that they are less likely to be exposed to the kind of harm that their partner or ex-partner is causing. And we then look at what they need to have a better future and we help them to work towards that. So it's very individual for every single person, but that safety for adult and child victim, that is always our main priority.
Yeah. When we had one of your team came to talk to us at Weaver Valley Rotary, perhaps one of the things that not so much surprised people, but opened our eyes a little bit, is the fact that this isn't just about women.
Absolutely, it's not just about women at all. Anybody can be a victim of domestic abuse. It can affect all genders. Men can be victims of female perpetrators. And we see that on a regular basis, probably around about 10% of our work. I think it is surprising. I don't think people realise, and I think it's very hard for men to acknowledge that they have been a victim, particularly if the perpetrator is female. The one thing that I think people aren't aware of is how many of their own friends and family might be living through or have lived through domestic abuse. I mean, we work with 5,000 adults and children a year. When you make throwaway comments based on something you might see on TV, the people around you hear that, and it makes them less likely to be able to talk to you about the situation. So I would ask people to be a little bit more mindful and to make sure everyone they know knows that they can tell you any of these things, and what they'll get from you is belief and support. And that really will make a difference.
What area geographically do you cover?
We cover Cheshire West, Cheshire East, Halton and Warrington. We deliver services right across Cheshire. And Domestic Abuse Experts, that's a national business. We deliver training and consultancy across the whole of the UK.
Fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about your involvement with Rotary. My CWA's interaction with Rotary probably goes deeper than either of us realise. Michaela came to one of the meetings at Weaver Valley Rotary and she shared so much information with us about what you do, how wide-reaching it is and how absolutely needed it is. So we were really happy to provide a donation to support the projects that she was working on. A year or so after that, we organised a business networking event and we invited Michaela to come and be one of our dedicated charities for that meeting. And all of the proceeds from that were divided between the two charities. Since then, you've become a member of Rotary. And one of the key reasons for that is Nic, who has been very open about a family background of domestic abuse. So he was really very drawn to helping you. Can you share a little bit about how things have been with that membership for you and what that's involved and how it's helped?
Absolutely. Nic's talked to me previously about his personal experience, and it really does have an impact because his passion for this work is absolutely real. To be honest, I visited the Rotary Club some years ago. I found it very off-putting. At the time, there were no women there then, and the banter was quite harsh, and I felt quite uncomfortable. And then Nic invited me to come along. He had really made some massive changes. There were women in the group. The group felt kinder. It was still more men than women. What surprised me was just how compassionate and caring they were about our work. Last year, we bought a new refuge property. It's a lot of flat pack furniture to build, and we normally have to pay somebody to come and to build all the furniture. And one of the guys had said, we can build the flat pack furniture, save you a bit of money. So we all went to the house on a Saturday. I made some sandwiches and were making cups of tea. 6 men came, a couple of them with their sons. They came with their own toolkits, and they just practically set about building all this furniture and turning this empty property into a refuge. And honestly, the impact that has had on me can't really overstate.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just that they'd done this and it was very generous and compassionate for the person that was about to move into that house. It was more the way they worked together, and particularly one of the fathers and his sons. It was such a healthy relationship, this adult man allowing his son as a young adult to take the lead, to make mistakes, to change the way he was doing things. I've never close up observed that kind of parenting relationship that's just so healthy. And it really reminds me that what we see is not normal. It might seem normal to us because we see it all the time. There are far more healthy parents and children than there are facing the kind of challenges that we face. And they've just been very generous in that way.
Perfect.
I've been working with a group of survivors who have created their own survivor survey. 1,113 people have participated across 60 counties.
Wow.
It's such a massive thing. I did not expect it to be so massive. And I gave Nic a ring and I said to him, "You do data, don't you?" Tracy had actually said to me, "Speak to me or Nic, we do data." So I sent him this massive, there's like 10,000 quotes, and he's slowly working his way through it. He's putting about 20 hours a week into this piece of work. I had no idea was what I needed and was asking for. I feel incredibly cheeky, but he is absolutely committed to us being able to get this right so that we can get that data out into the public domain, and it can make a difference to the way that different agencies work. And I don't know what it would have cost to pay somebody with those skills.
It doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
But every part of the Our Own Words survey has been delivered by people with lived experience. And I guess Nic does have that lived experience as well. So above and beyond is what I always feel about all the Rotary clubs. That's what makes me feel like I should be part of that, because I think that's what my work has always felt like. It's always felt like I lived in refuge. I had that experience, and I've spent 30 plus years trying to support other people with that same set of experiences, and that need to be of service and to make a difference is what probably brought Rotary together in the first place.
In some ways, you're almost the epitome of what all of us individual Rotary members want to achieve, in that we can provide money and we can help with fundraising, and we're delighted to do that.
Every penny that we've been given goes into our Specialist Services Fund and is spent directly on what is needed by the people that we are looking to support. So that might be a street homeless woman who comes into our centre and needs food and a sleeping bag. It might be a family who are moving out of refuge who need some help to buy a second-hand washing machine or some other item for their new home. So it really does make a difference.
It's so fulfilling to be able to help an organisation that's in need with some funding. But actually, when you get that opportunity as well to muck in and to give some time and to genuinely feel that that small amount of time is making a difference, that is just so rewarding. How would you describe your relationship and your experience with Rotary?
My view of Rotary has completely changed. When I met some of the women from your Rotary Club, I thought, oh, wow, there is real change happening.
Yeah.
Certainly locally and regionally, internationally as well.
Yeah.
And I've been to a couple of talks about visitors, members who've been visiting across in other countries and have got to their local Rotary there. And I just feel quite different about it now. I feel like I've got a group of friends who will be there if I needed anything. I used to worry that I'd feel bad when I couldn't attend regularly. That's just the way life is.
Yes, it is.
You can't always be available on a Wednesday night.
Absolutely.
And nobody's ever judged me for that. I just feel like they're happy to see me when I'm there, and I'm happy to be there. I've lived in Northwich for 19 years. It's probably only this past year that I've really felt like I've got my own group of friends.
Yeah.
Because of going to the Rotary and
that's amazing.
meeting new people, and feel like I'm genuinely part of that community now. I would definitely say to anybody, if you are wondering, try it.
Yeah.
It's fun. I've done things I wouldn't have expected. It's really good fun.
If somebody is listening and they're feeling really drawn to provide some support, can you tell us a little bit about what support would be helpful for you, and who should people contact and how do they get in touch?
We are always looking for volunteers, and they should get in touch with Maria. maria.m@mycwa.org.uk.
Fantastic.
She's our volunteer coordinator. We need volunteers who've got admin expertise. Maybe somebody that's retired still wants to use those skills, because the amount of admin that's needed in an organisation like this is absolutely enormous. We also need volunteers who'll support with group development for our peer support groups and skills around social media. We could do with helping that team as well. So volunteering of time is probably the biggest ask we have.
Yeah.
And then there's specific times that are particularly challenging. So around Christmas, we need people volunteering to wrap presents, help to distribute gifts to the families that need them most, to help cook a Christmas dinner. So everybody can come in and have a Christmas dinner and nobody gets missed out. So yeah, lots and lots of things.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Saskia. You have provided us with a perfect example of how Rotary can work with a partner. The work that you do is so needed and so impactful, and for us at Rotary it's a privilege to be able to help and support you in whatever way we can. I really hope you get a few people that get in touch and want to volunteer, or they might want to donate, or they might just want to come along to Rotary and be able to find out about how they can help more groups like you that need that support. So thank you, Saskia.
Thanks, Paula.
Rotary fits into my life like a hand into a glove, because so much of my life has become about serving the community and trying to see good done in the world. And I want to touch on why that's so important to me and go back onto some of my childhood story, because it's very easy to sit here and just say, I had a difficult childhood, but actually that means so many different things. And I think it's important to illustrate that in some way. I wasn't wanted as a baby. In fact, I was the fourth child in the family. I was conceived in December 1966. My mum was 7 months pregnant before she even went to a doctor, because she was so terrified of having me. And she actually had to call a taxi to take her to the hospital. My father was constantly rowing with my mother and constantly attacking her. And he would actually say, I was happy with the two girls, why did you have more children? He would even say, I was happy when a boy came along. So that's my older brother. I was happy then, but why did you have Nicholas? I had a son in there. I didn't need him. In the extreme moments when my poor mother, who was the kindest and gentlest person you could imagine, she would lose her temper and scream back at him. Well, I didn't effing want him either. That was my upbringing. And there was a moment in my life where I asked her about it, and she was an honest person as well. And she said, of course she didn't want me. She knew what my father was like. And it was a devastating moment in my life. And I wish I'd had a chance really to reconcile that with her, because I'm sure she didn't mean it in that way. She was just terrified of it, really. And that was the problem, you know. But another incident that happened to me, which I would like to touch on, really, and I don't feel I'm able to describe it in the details that I thought I might be able to today, but I suffered a very severe beating at the hands of my father, who was forcing me to drive a minibus. I was 11 years old. I had no way of driving the thing. I didn't know how to drive. And I stalled the vehicle, and he got me out of the vehicle, and he beat me with his belt. He used to wear a 2-inch leather belt that he used for beating me and my brother. And he hit me very hard with it twice, and I had to get back in and try and drive it again. A part of the reason I remember it so well is it became so traumatic that I started to use some coping mechanisms, and I really, really made myself remember what happened. And one of my coping mechanisms was to count how many times I stalled the vehicle, which was 13 times. And each time he hit me very, very hard with his belt, 26 times. And after the incident, he took me into some woods nearby, made me strip my clothes off. I was just stood there, naked in this woodland with him stood behind me, and I looked round because I didn't know what was happening. And I just saw him completely ashen-faced, all the blood drained from his face. He looked horrified, and I looked down at my body. I could see quite a lot of the damage. And there were welt marks from the small of my back to the tops of the backs of my knees. And some of them were bleeding a little bit, and I was just horrified. I suffered during the meeting, and I suffered in that moment what is, I now realise, is dissociation and a certain amount of depersonalisation, that I didn't feel myself anymore. And it was in that moment in my life that I realised, well, I lost all respect for my father in that point. He caught my eye eventually, and he just said, "Don't tell your mother," and walked off. And of course, I never respected him again. It led me to start planning who I wanted to be and who I was. And I think at the age of 11, to be planning that and trying to think, well, who would I have been if these things hadn't happened? And this abuse carried on, I mean, the idea that it was just in that moment. I grew up in a world where violence wasn't an event like I've just described. It was the air that I breathed. It was a hellscape of threat and trauma and harm. And at a tender age of 11, when most children were chatting about what was on TV last night, I was trying to figure out who I wanted to become, because I felt utterly broken by it. And I planned to be someone who would help other people, and that if I could do good in the world, if I could see good deeds done, then that would wipe out the harm that had been done to me and that I'd seen done to my siblings and to my mother. I tell the story of the two wolves, that you have two wolves inside you and engaged in a fight, and which one wins, and it's the one that you feed. If you feed the good wolf, that's the one that wins the battle. I heard that story much later in my life when I was in my mid-20s, and it kind of fitted with how I felt, I was trying to be. I was trying to starve my bad wolf, and I rejected violence with every fibre of my being. And I embraced passivity, and I felt like it was the only antidote to this chaos that I'd known as a child. And I fed my good wolf obsessively with kindness, empathy, gentleness, intellect. Those are the things I wanted and I strove for. And I'm very, very lucky. I'm very lucky that I went to that path. Those are the things that make you happy. They really are, and I reach out to people and say, work towards that, because that is so much of what I am now. And I'm so proud of being a caring, perceptive, and deeply attuned to other people's needs. I still have a thirst for knowledge as well, which has carried me through university, and getting a good job is what saved me in many ways. It's so important to tell people actually you should have harmony, and there's a cost to just feeding the good wolf the whole time, because the story's wrong, really. It really is, because it's taken me years to learn that actually the goal isn't to kill your bad wolf. The goal is to stop hating it. That wolf carries so many things. It's memories of what I survived, the instincts that kept me alive, and my anger that this was wrong. That's what's fueled me to try and see justice in the world and to spread kindness, Ignoring the bad wolf doesn't make me peaceful. It made me frightened of myself. I just want to tell that important lesson. I feed both wolves now. I just feed them differently. Feed the good wolf with my compassion and creativity and sometimes humor and connection with people, right? And the bad wolf, you just got to acknowledge and be honest about it and give it a space to exist, accept that it's there. So yeah, I don't lock my bad wolf in the cellar anymore. I wish I could have told my younger self that. If people want to find some happiness, there's nothing better than to give to other people. It really is the happiest thing you can do. A blood donor, for example, it's wonderful to give blood because it's saving lives. And bless her, my mum died of cancer at 51 in the end. I mean, by that time, she looked like a 90-year-old woman. She'd suffered so much. I saw her receiving blood donations and what effect it had on her, and that was the impetus for me to start my blood donations. A lot of people have been in those situations with cancer, I mean, relatives or for themselves, and have had that help from blood donations. It's so important. So yeah, there's lots of ways to help, but Rotary is an easy step. I think you can see how that has led me to a journey of wanting to find something like Rotary. And that's a really easy step you can take, is to find your local Rotary club and just get involved in some small way.
If you'd like to find out more about Weaver Valley Rotary or come along to one of our meetings, you would be very welcome. And you can find all the details at www.weavervalleyrotary.org. You'll find links alongside this episode to all the organisations and events we've featured today, so you can find out more or get involved with any that particularly interest you. Thank you so much for listening.